Hey everybody, it's Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, where I go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend. And as you probably saw from my last video, on the last weekend cruise, which was the New Year's Eve cruise, I did test positive for COVID-19 on the ship. I am doing better at this point. I still have some symptoms even after coming back home to finish my quarantine. I am doing better, but wanted to talk with you today about how they safely got me off the ship, how they disembarked me on Monday morning when we came back to Port Miami, so that I did not expose others to COVID during my contagious stage. So the first thing that they did is they reached out to me the night before and kind of gave me a heads up of how everything was going to play out and walk me through the process. And you know, they even mentioned a little tongue in cheek that, hey, you may feel a little bit like an alien here because there's going to be quite the production and you almost felt, you know, a little bit like you're going to be in the Mars movie, you know, getting off the ship. It was not honestly that terribly bad, but let me walk you through what that process actually was. So the first thing that they started to do the evening before was give me a lot of letters. So there's probably 7 or 8 different letters that were sent to my room. These were from CDC guidelines on how not to spread COVID, how to quarantine when I get home, how my future cruise credit was going to work for my canceled sailing that I was supposed to be going on, and how it was going to work for the cruise that I was currently on. So there was just a lot of letters that came. From there, in the morning, you know, I did order room service, so best practice, if you will, if you do get COVID, make sure the night before debarkation you order room service to show up and have it show up a little bit earlier than when they say they're going to come and get you to disembark. So luckily I was able to get some coffee, which is very important to me, a little bit of a cheese omelet. And very quickly after that, the knocks on the door started happening and getting several phone calls preparing me to get ready to leave the ship. They provided me, first of all, with some gloves to wear, some latex gloves on my hands. They gave me an N95 mask, which is different than the traditional surgical mask you may see with the little Crown and Anchor logo on it, and asked me to wear those when I was disembarking. They then asked for all of my luggage to be set outside the hallway. The gentleman that took care of me the whole time, I think they were assigned to the quarantine floor in PP, and by the way, they could not have been nicer guys checking on me. Wrapped all of my suitcases and bags in saran wrap so that, you know, should they have any viruses on them, they would not have been changed anywhere else. And then they asked if I was ready to leave, and so walked out of the stateroom at that time. And I must say that I've never used a porter at the port before. I've just always kind of carried on my own bags. It was a really nice experience having them take care of my luggage to get me off the ship. Number one, I was not feeling well getting off the ship, and this was just one thing to make it a little bit easier. So they escorted me from my cabin, which was midship on deck number 2, all the way to, I believe it was the forward staircase on deck number 2. And this was the entire quarantine floor. And so I walked through a lot of open rooms that they had set up ready to go if more people needed to be in quarantine. Luckily, I think there was only me and one other gentleman on this sailing who were actually utilizing this space, but there was a solid like 30 rooms probably that they had ready to go. And this was all because of their CDC safe to return sailing protocols. They have policies and procedures in place, they're ready, and you just kind of never know how it's going to work on each sailing. So we were walking through all these rooms. You go through like some corridors. They've got the plastic sheets that are up separating everything. There's a few workers in there all in, you know, full protective gear. And then when we get to the elevators, I do cut back into the common space to go down one flight of stairs from deck 2 down to deck 1. The hallway has been closed off at this point. There is nobody allowed to walk in and out of my space while we are disembarking. I am followed by the Fogmaster 1000 once again, the ionizer or disinfectant spray. It looks like a hair dryer of some kind that is spraying behind everywhere I go. So we walk down to the gangway on deck number 1. And this is probably about 8:45, 9 o'clock in the morning. So all the other guests should be fully disembarked or almost done at this point. I walk off the ship, am very quickly greeted by the guest services manager, as well as a customs agent who, welcomes me into the country, checks my documents, and then I get into a black car that is parked directly beside of the cruise ship, and that drives me over to my car in the parking lot. This also keeps me from having to ride in the elevator and be mixed in with other folks to get to my car. But he was, very kind. He took, the bags out of his car, put them into my car. And then I was tasked with, luckily, just driving myself home to finish the remainder of my quarantine. So that is where I am now. I am sitting at home finishing up quarantine. And I must say, looking back at this experience, overall, Royal Caribbean made a poor situation, with having COVID on the ship, really, really manageable and almost a nice experience. I felt fully supported. Anything I wanted, I could have asked for, though I didn't really want that much stuff other than just to rest at that time. But Royal Caribbean has really good policies and procedures that kicked in, and they knew what they were doing. I felt really, really well supported. And so I guess I just want to convey to you, if you are worried about coming down with COVID-19 on the ship, it is not the end of the world. It is not a fun experience, I will tell you that. You're going to be sick, but they have policies, they have procedures, and you're going to feel really well supported through the process. So with that, hope everybody does stay happy, healthy. You're enjoying your new year. And this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, hoping to see you safely on a weekend cruise soon.